ден. Доста напреднахме във времето.
Good morning. Time's running, so we might delay slightly the coffee break, but please do not be angry. We heard very important messages from the Speaker of Parliament, from Mr. Letter, a key figure when it comes to shaping new European politics. Now we get down to business, and all the clever stuff that I had prepared, I would have to skip in order to give the opportunity to our esteemed guests to share what really matters. Let me just say at the beginning the following. We cannot influence everything that is happening, but we can certainly have some impact on things that we do not realize we have not faced yet. But the good news is that the European Union has already realized something very important, and that's reflected in Mr. Draghi's and Mr. Letter's reports, and that's that we need to change. We need to change profoundly in some respects, radically, in order that this wonderful 20th century project survives. And this can happen with the right way of thinking, with intellect, with imagination, but also with our actions, because the best ideas are worth nothing if they are not implemented by those who have to implement them, lawmakers and the executive power. It is a privilege for us today to have on this panel the executive President of the European Commission, Ms. Manzato, Vice President, also representatives of the Bulgarian government. 2 ministers will share their vision. We have also representatives of the real business, the consumer of policies, but I'm sure that they have their own views to share as people who are faced and have to find solutions to problems. We'll talk about the key capital of Europe, and that's people, their potential, their energy. So let's make a start to the panel. I would like to invite Ms. Roxana Manzato so that she could share with us the new policy of the European Commission about a union of skills. How is it different from social policy as we've known it so far, and how will this have its positive impact on competitiveness in Europe?
Thank you, and good morning, Sofia. Good morning to all who have arrived here as guests as well. It is a pleasure for me to visit as Commissioner for the first time officially Bulgaria. As a Romanian, I want to tell you that for me Europe meant Bulgaria for a long time, because it was the first country that I visited when getting outside of my own country long time ago. So visiting Primorsko and seeing the culinary and cultural differences in Bulgaria, for me, defined the idea of traveling outside of my own country. However, many decades later, or enough decades later, the connection between our countries in this region still do not do this justice to our neighborhood. I was reflecting on that as I was traveling yesterday from Romania to Bulgaria by car, and it took many hours. It seems sometimes that it's easier to go to Brussels than to Sofia. Flight connections not much better. So last evening we had an opportunity with Prime Minister Stanishev, with the ministers of the government, the speaker, with Enrico Letta, with the guest ministers from Greece to talk about the need to have a stronger Europe and a stronger European Union through stronger connections in this part of Europe, in this region of Europe, connections on transport, energy, so on and so forth. So I am very optimistic seeing this kind of setup, this kind of debate, the public and private stakeholders from this part of European Union talking, debating, sending clear messages about the future of our union, a future of our union which must speak as well to the Brussels bubble, to the big European industry, to the French, to the Finnish, to the Italian, but as well to the Bulgarian, to the Polish, to the Romanian, to the Greeks. It is important that as we debate our future, this future does not seem as one that is imposed or manufactured in some laboratories in Brussels or Strasbourg or some think tanks, but that we are all part of this conversation, part of this decision, part of the success or part of the failure for that matter. And I would congratulate the forum, of course, for getting stronger and stronger on the topic of the green transition. But you will be probably in your mind silently agreeing with me a bit that by now, a bit for our citizens and for some of our companies, a bit the word green, a bit the word transition starts to have not very positive connotations. And it is such a pity. But that is the thing with politics, and that is the thing with democracy. We work with perceptions, and we work with decisions. Going green, the green jump, the green transformation, as was mentioned here, transition as it is no longer a question of option, a question of naivete, or a question of being attached to a cause. It's a question of doing business, of being profitable, of being competitive. China sees it, US sees it, many competitors see it. While Europe has had leadership in this domain, I think it is important for us to retranslate this championing, this leadership to our citizens, to our companies, to our mayors, in terms of we go green because that's more profitable for every individual, for Europe to become autonomous, independent, but more prosperous, and of course, to protect the future of our generations. But how do we make it so? So the message of my speech, which, of course, as usual, I will not read, but the colleagues did prepare me a very good speech, and the core of my message as Executive Vice President in charge with people, with social rights, with skills, with education, with employment, how do we make it so that every European from every corner of our union has a stake, feels that they have a personal stake in this transformation, in our drive for competitiveness, in this transition. And let's be aware that many times people consider transitions as a certain moment where they have something to lose. And we do have sometimes to lose some kind of habits. But we need to focus on what they might have to gain and how we help them from Brussels, from Sofia, from Bucharest, from Athens to win. How do we make it so that the retired person, the farmer, the child, the teenager, the entrepreneur, the startup, the worker in automotive or the worker in chemistry, how do we make it so that they feel that they really have a stake and something to gain from this green transformation, which is about the type of competitiveness where Europe really can lead. And of course, in the new Commission, we propose, I think, more than business as usual, we propose a new mindset. Challenge will be that the mindset we propose, we need also to deliver together with member states, with European Parliament, with you, the business sector, with the civil society. The mindset a bit, I would call it agility or agileness. I don't know how it is in English. A bit it's borrowed from IT or from other industries. Is it possible that we as a European project be agile? I think we really have to. Because if we want to become competitive, to transform our industries in 20 years' time, in 25 years' time, then we have missed our purpose. We need to have leaps, agile leaps. We are working on simplification. We are working on policies that really reshape our industries, but we need to do it in a different rhythm. And how do we make it so that this rhythm touches the lives of people, that people are at the center of this transition? We focus on 3 topics. First, I will talk a bit about skills and education, which is not necessarily EU competence, but the idea is that that's how we equip our citizens to be able to navigate, to anticipate and navigate all these transitions and transformations they see in the industry, in society. And when we look at skills, of course, we see the numbers which are a bit the same in all member states. We see the fact that we do not have enough talented people for the industries, but also for the care or healthcare sector. Simply not enough talented, skilled labor for what the market requires. At the same time, we think that these people will need to adapt to AI-assisted jobs, or to transition from automotive to defense, or from one industry to chemistry, or to chemical industry, or to other types of manufacturing jobs which are in a new mindset, in a green mindset. How do we do that? Well, we look at the skills, and what we see is that from young age, the basic skills of our youngsters, 15-year-olds, have decreased in the past 15 years constantly. A digital generation that has very little digital basic skills. That a digital generation, and I was looking 1/3 in Europe, about a half in Bulgaria, but that has challenges in achieving the basic skills in mathematics, in science, in literacy, in reading, those that are absolutely necessary for them. Then when they become adults, they are able to reskill and upskill for better jobs, to be able to transition from an industry to another. So we launched the Union of Skills exactly to start with this foundation. And this is the first step of the Union of Skills, to work on the improvement of basic skills of the young generation and of adults alike. And for example, we want to pilot, there are many measures in the Union of Skills, but we want to pilot a support scheme for basic skills so that we are able to help our young generation and adults to catch up on these elements. And this is the first time the EU says, I will intervene in order to help you member states to improve the foundations of the skills. Without those, you cannot reskill or upskill adults. Then second part of the Union of Skills is what happens with the adults in the labor market. We want to have a skills guarantee for workers. I've mentioned the example a bit earlier. There are industries that are transitioning due to tariff wars, due to, of course, competitiveness elements. Automotive, we had a strategic dialogue with them. We have even now discussions with investors in Europe in automotive where state-of-the-art factories are repositioned inside or outside of European Union, leaving some of the most skilled and full of expertise labor force without a perspective in the labor market. What do we do with these people? We need to help them reskill, upskill, reposition in the industries where we have demand. And for this, we propose a skills guarantee for workers, just for like an example, where we will invest EU money, but we also need to invest national money, private money, to be able to have this kind of guarantee, this kind of safety net for every worker to be able to remain relevant or even to grow in an ever-changing landscape. Whether now for the young generation of architects, we were talking last night, working in the drone production industry is an opportunity. This is for us to help, investing in the right skills so that we offer the opportunities in the right industries where the demand is increasing and where the shortages are important. The circulation of skills, and Enrico Letta's report is much more than a single market. The circulation of skills. We travel freely in the European Union, but many times our degrees, our diplomas, our skills, as LinkedIn calls them, they do not travel with us, or they come much later, because we have such a fragmented 27 member states with 27 systems that protect their own recognition systems, and many times you are able to obtain a very good job in another member state to contribute to the European economy, but you are not able to have your skills recognized immediately. So we want to propose next year the Portability of Skills initiative, which will be a legal initiative making it so that skills are automatically recognized as we travel inside the single market. And this is a bit part of that fifth freedom that Enrico mentioned, the circulation of knowledge, the circulation of education that should be as free as the circulation of workers. We need to work at a European degree, and this is also part of the Union of Skills. We need to support our ecosystem so that our youngsters are able to get a European degree, not just in university, but also in vocational and educational training. And we will start also with piloting one on engineering, where we have the highest shortages for many industries, which are very important for our preparedness, for our security, for many sectors. It is absolutely important that we understand that without investing in skills and education, we are unable to be innovative, unable to have the green transformation. Yes, we need a saving and investments union, we need a capital market, yes, we need physical infrastructure, yes, we need to invest in our defense, but most importantly, we need to invest in our people, and people need to feel protected. And by equipping them with the right skills, no matter what the age or where their position is in the labor market, we are making them feeling safe and certain in the labor market. I would also mention two other tools that we have and use. One is the working conditions. We will launch the Quality Jobs Roadmap by the end of this year. There are sectors where no matter what the skills available are, the working conditions need to be improved. We're looking at the transport sector and the investments we need to do in parking spaces where there are shortages for drivers, and many, many other sectors. So the Quality Jobs Roadmap is about that. But it will be also, and I invite you to debate this year, next year, on what a quality job means in a world where AI is no longer an assistant, but it is also a boss. The algorithm decides and coordinates the activity of the workers. Do we regulate on that, or do we just do guidelines? It is important that this is part of our quality jobs discussion. And the third element I would mention is the budget. The EU budget that we will present in July will be a strong political message that we continue to invest in the new priorities, competitiveness, safety, but we also invest in the education, in the social safety nets of our Europeans. It is extremely important that we continue to fight poverty, then we continue to fight child poverty and have a strong child guarantee support. This is the generation that will continue to build Europe, and to have a very strong Erasmus. And with this a bit I close. The Erasmus is not a privilege and an opportunity for some chosen ones to travel and study in Europe. It should be a right for every European child and teenager. It's the kind of Europe that they will build if they know it directly. Our ancestors built European projects out of fear, out of a different sense of bringing peace to the continent. Next generations need to reconnect with Europe in new ways. And the strong Erasmus present in each and every teenager's life will make sure that really happens. Looking forward to hearing a bit of the debates, and I'm very, very open to working with Bulgaria, which I think is the heart of Europe, in as much as Brussels is, through such wonderful events as today.
Thank you so much, Executive Vice President. You said that the first country you visited living Romania was Bulgaria, but you had the unfortune to travel by car yesterday, because not much has changed since your first visit. And it's a shame, come on. And also it's a shame that between Bucharest and Sofia, there is no more a flight every day. And meanwhile, tomorrow we shall have a Bulgarian-Romanian Business Forum, and I was reading and preparing for it, and I was astonished by the data. Our trade is 8.5 billion euro per year. Romania is our second trading partner, and we don't have an airplane connection, and we're speaking about competitiveness. But you know, Executive Vice President, you brought me joy because clearly there is a sense of direction and a plan how to improve the skills and the capacity of our labor force and to create better conditions for them, but also some concerns, because you mentioned the budget. And I know that now in Europe there are many new priorities, rearm Europe, this and that, many things, but if we don't protect our people, if we don't give them a chance, if they don't see that Europe thinks about them individually, not about the big picture, they will not support Europe. Because the most successful project in Europe, which is known for all people of young generation, is Erasmus. And we really need to invest more in human capital. This is my position, and I'm sure it's the position of the huge majority of people here. Сега, ние чухме визията на Европа.
We just heard the vision of the European Commission. In March, the Commission announced the competitiveness compass. And it's important to hear the Bulgarian ministers, the Bulgarian government, what our compass is like. Because for the time being, we do have the clear priority joining the Eurozone as of the 1st of January 26. This is not going to be the magic solution to our problems. You know very well what the issues are on the labor market, the deficits in 190 different professions with different types of qualifications, and a lot of issues for the employers, for the Bulgarian economy as such. I would like to begin by giving the floor to Minister Guțanov. What are the plans of the ministry in the field of training, qualifications of workers? I just heard that there are 180,000, as I read recently, who do not study or are not in employment. This is a huge loss for the country. Sadly, Mr. Stanishev is correct. The latest statistics show that there are many young people who are neither in training nor in employment. And that's why the Council of Ministers decided to identify them to the last person, literally, because it so happens that there are about 200,000 people, according to statistics, who are in this situation in Bulgaria. On the other hand, we import workers to Bulgaria, and these are two different trends. And that's why we need to know what is going on. It's a great pleasure to address Ms. Manzato today, and our Speaker of Parliament, Madam Kiselova, Madam Stanisheva, three ladies. You may have noticed how we began this morning. Ladies are in the majority, and there's nothing wrong with that. Esteemed MEPs, Bulgarian members, ministers, this event is really very, very high level. It is now not only talking about Bulgaria, a possibility to discuss Bulgaria, which was the case 5 years ago, but now we also feel that we have an impact at the EU level and in the Commission. We are indeed highly appreciative of what's going on in Sofia at the moment. We are now living in a world of tectonic changes. And when we witness what's going on in the world, we can't help understanding that there is an impact on what is going on the labor market. These trends changed the entire labor market. I was highly impressed by the introduction we heard from Mr. Letta. He said that the energy sector was delegated to Russia, industry to China, and so on. and we outsourced everything in the European Union, and we should be living very well as a result of that. However, it turns out the situation is entirely different. And now the European Union, Europe must do what it takes to go back to reality and completely change the situation. I'm sure we'll find the strength to do that because Europe has always been the leading party in the economy, in politics, in the world. And if we want to retain this position, this transition is extremely possible. Something that needs to be done, and our ministry and I personally would very much like to see that happening, is to not only have a budget because the year is running already, but let us talk about 15 years from now. Unlike the Chinese Republic that are planning for decades, we still need to have some idea as to what we are going to do in the future. We are, after all, a living organism, and if we don't have a vision of what's coming, we can't tie up all our efforts accordingly. I'm very happy to see you all here because the economy, education, and the labor market are interlinked. The economy has to have a clear vision as to how it is going to develop, and this should be the case at the EU level and in Bulgaria as well, because if we know what the path ahead is like, what we want, where we want to be, we would be able to do what it takes to get there. And that's why I say it's all interlinked. I was very impressed by what Professor Galinov said. He is with the School of Marines in Bulgaria, and he said this is the first time we don't know what the future is going to be like when we train our cadets. And this is really something that we should try to deal with. We should know at least what's going to happen in 15 years. I want to link it up to something that took place in Bulgaria about a week ago. It may sound very remote, but this is not really the case. And here I'm talking about taking care of the elderly. The Bulgarians in this room know that the two line ministries, the Ministry of Justice and our ministry, with the support of the Prime Minister, organized several operations in illegal homes for the elderly. And we have had such discussions. It's no accident that these discussions took place at our ministry. The aging of our population is really accelerating now. We are in a demographic crisis. The Bulgarian Academy of Sciences has been sounding a warning bell for years now, but now we have to understand we need to train people to work in this field. When the elderly are taken out of these nursing homes, where do they go? Do we have other places, alternatives that we can offer them? So we have to listen to science, because science told us what's going to happen in Bulgaria. And sadly enough, it's not only Bulgaria, it's the whole of Europe that's in the same situation. And we need to know what should be done. And now, specifically on skills and things that need to be done. It's quite clear we have to have complete coordination in educating, building up the workforce, and link up to business. And I'm very happy to see representatives of the economy in Bulgaria here. There should be no mismatch, and that is why we from the ministry invest so much in this area. Ms. Stanisheva knows that I have problems with my voice, and that's why I do appreciate this gesture. That is why the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy invests so much in this field. Over 1 billion on the two programs, Human Resource and the National Resilience and Recovery Plan. However, the issue is that this 1 billion, which will be invested into training and retraining, computer literacy, high-tech skills, for, after all, these challenges we're discussing, AI, digitalization, require a different type of skill, different types of skills. But it's not enough to spend 1 billion, but we need to know what the quality is, what the people have done, whether they have done what's needed, whether we have done what is needed for them to be at the level required by the modern economy. This is the key. And I would do my utmost, together with the whole team of the ministry, to not only be reporting numbers, but come up with people who are indeed well-trained, and the real economy needs these people. And they need to be at the level that is truly needed. This is the important thing that needs to be done. I see that time is running on. Allow me to mention two more issues. The Institute of Computer Science, AI, and High Tech in Sofia, in partnership with universities of global significance, attract a lot of interest. In this summer's research program, the Institute received more than 4,000 applications for only 20 places. And this is the evidence we have taken a step forward, and not only a step, but a huge leap forward. Something else which is important for Bulgarian companies, I'm not going to quote names, but one builds satellites used all over the world, and another one dealing with space engineering and space technologies. Why do I mention this at the end? Because the 21st century is the century of high-tech, and that is why we need to invest this 1 billion into skills and knowledge for the people who would be able to work in the fields I just mentioned. I know I have no more time, but I'm ready to take questions, Mr. Stanishev. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Minister Gutsanov. And talking about creativity and plans for the future. There are innovations where there is an industry, as Mr. Letta said already. This was the big mistake Europe committed. We exported a lot of our industries, and now for the first time we are talking about industrial policy. And we are to be now looking for and finding new fields. I know, however, that Bulgaria is doing pretty well in view of programs of the Ministry of Labour and Social Policy, programs for digital skills, training and retraining. However, the question is, what is the basic training that the Bulgarian labor force receives? Just as everywhere else in Europe, we have difficulties in maths, in natural sciences. Mr. Volchev, I read your comment after the 11th of June, when students were sitting at their finals. And you say that our biggest mistake is that the students are no longer obliged to sit a final in maths. And then where the Bulgarian education system helps acquire knowledge, it's doing pretty well. But when it comes to skills, it's not doing so well at all. As Minister Gutsanov said, each of the members of this younger generation would have to change several professions within their lifetime. And that's why the government and the European Union should help improve training and retraining. This is key. So can you share your viewpoint on the role of education, secondary, higher education, for the competitiveness of the economy?
Mr. Stanishev, Ms. Manzato, Ms. Kisarova, Ms. Stanisheva, congratulations on the forum. Today's students will be active on the labor market in another decade, when the world will be very different. Transformations are profound due to the development of technology, but not just that. The question is how we prepare young people so that they're ready to join the labor market. We have to try and see into the future so that we gain some certainty as what we need to do. We have to look ahead on the one hand, but we also have to look back into the past. We implemented 2 reforms in the past few years in the education of Bulgaria, and some of the outcomes have been positive. Information technology is now much better taught in Bulgarian schools, and children are getting to grips with digital technology. Now we're faced with yet another challenge, and that's AI, but I'll talk about that later. Bulgarian students are very good at foreign languages. And as Mr. Stanishev said, the educational system is good when it comes to basic education and knowledge. This is what we see in international tests, and the results are above average for the EU. But what has gone down are the performance in natural sciences and mathematics. Motivation has also declined, and there is a lot of competition with the information environment, with social media. We are competing for the attention of our children, and what we are not doing quite well is generating this kind of motivation. The 2 educational reforms have made the curricula more ambitious, and this is what we normally do. We set up a task force, and we complicate and make the curricula more and more ambitious. We add additional subjects, new skills, horizontal skills, but the time remains the same. So we increase the workload for students, and what happens is that teachers and students do not have the time to go through all that content, and they tend to study just to get a good grade, but not for the skills. And the skills come when we forget what we have learned, in Einstein's words. And then we try to measure the achievements using PISA and other tools. And we don't get the outcomes that we wish for. So we are looking at assessment. Assessment is very important, as this is an important metric both for teachers and for the students. But the question is how we test students. And in that respect, teachers' qualifications are very important. We have to develop innovative culture and innovative teaching methods, as we are fighting for the attention of children. Something else that was mentioned by Ms. Manzato, basic skills are getting more and more important. We need to understand that basic skills are growing in importance. Maths is going to be key when it comes to future jobs. And we have to look at the skills of the 21st century. Coding would also require mathematics skills, communicative skills are growing in importance as well. Large language models also show us that it's important to be able to communicate, to be able to ask the right questions in order to get the expected answers. We always try to think ahead, but sometimes we forget the basics. And this is something that we very often forget, and so we have to go back to basics. We have to look at mathematics, and we need to revise the curricula and cut back in order to free up space, something that is quite the opposite to what we have been doing so far, because our curricula tend to be overly academic and theoretical. These are the objectives that we have set ourselves. There are 3 elements to competences, and we have to look at all 3 elements. Congratulations on what you are trying to do, opening up the discussion. And Bulgaria 2025 is indeed very important. We have to address the deficiencies. We have to decide what our strategic goals are. We want to live in a prosperous society, and we can prosper thanks to technology, to the industry, to education. But we need to strike a balance, and education is key, as it teaches attitudes, not just skills, and it is a very important aspect of education that it has to take this larger role of educating students into the important values of society, educate students about the civilizational choice that we have made. We want to be a country that is tolerant and respectful. We value the rule of law, and all that is very important within the context of the goals that we have set. And continuity is also very important in education. There is a general consensus, and we have to seek also political agreement in order to be able to address the challenges that we're faced with. Thank you, Minister. What I've just heard from you sounds very encouraging. Your analysis is right, and it is important that you're also thinking about the role of schools as institutions which teach values. And your approach focusing on analysis is key, but we need to act quickly. We need to take the right decisions now, because there is a lot of inertia in this system.
Saying this, I remembered Lord of the Rings, the movie, and Sauron was moving the site. But it's really a pleasure for me to welcome 2 very prominent members of the European Parliament, Victor Negrescu, he is also Vice President, and Lukas Mandl from Austria, because the European Parliament has a very important role to play. This is the only institution elected by us, after all. The Commission is elected by the Parliament, the Council is the heads of state and government, so I would directly ask the 2 prominent members of the European Parliament to questions. First, Victor, I know that you are responsible for the panel for science and knowledge. And I know that you are at the beginning, at the start of the initiative regarding knowledge and Erasmus. And you have a call, 20% of the next MFF to go for education and skills, which is very important. Do you think we shall achieve it? Because we see all the appetites which want to take money from this. And I'll have ask Lucas as well. I know that in Europe, and you are working on this omnibus, which is review and reduction of many unneeded regulations, which should simplify the process of investments, business work. What is your experience and observation, and shall we be successful? Because I can see in the language of the Commission, or some people from the Commission, they started very radically to simplify some of the regulations and rules, which are just a red tape, an obstacle, and then it's watering down. We have to avoid it because we need to be competitive after all. Thank you. Victor, you have the floor.
Thank you, first of all, for the invitation. It's good to be here and, of course, to hear all those interesting interventions. And that is why I feel the need to underline something that I believe is important. I strongly believe that the European economic and social model today, unfortunately, is in a crisis. Because we have focused a lot on today's unforeseen situation, and we forgot to plan. We were reactive, not proactive. This is why we need to cool down a little bit and plan ahead. If we want to build a stronger Europe, if we want to make sure that all the countries across the Union will develop in the future. And that is why I called upon the Commission and Member States to allocate at least 20% of the next multi-annual financial framework for education and skills. Currently, if we look to what we have today in the MFF, roughly about 12% goes for education and skills, which is actually not enough. Because if I'm looking at this room, I immediately think about the skills that we need for the future. And I will ask you directly, how many of you already have an AI skill, an AI certificate proving that you have competencies in the field? How many of you? AI. Very few. How many of you have a green skill certificate? Even less. And we can take the list of skills that are required for the future, and we will notice that not only us, but the people that we also represent do not have the skills that they need for their future. Skills that offer them more opportunities, more possibilities to develop businesses, find a job, but also plan their future. This is why I strongly believe that we need also to reform and modernize how Europe is active in those respective fields. I talked about an Erasmus 2.0, but maybe we need a little bit more than that. Really, we need to redefine our actions and our goals. For instance, to do a follow-up on those different projects, making sure that when we sponsor mobilities, we also sponsor mobilities towards less developed regions, like, for instance, getting European students to Bulgaria or Romania. We also need to focus on making sure people that don't have access to mobilities get better access, but also at the end, we have concrete, tangible outcomes that we can show to people, making accessibility to those kind of skills an opportunity for everyone. Indeed, I also believe that our region needs to be at the forefront of this change that I hope we will achieve in the future. So this is why I take the opportunity of this platform, because I believe this platform is also a great occasion to come up with initiatives, to recommend to Romania, Bulgaria, and Greece to come up with a concrete initiative in the field of education, innovation, and skills. Mm-hmm. Why not build the union in those respective fields that people talk about, but are scared in doing. Because many countries in Europe, they say education is not European competence, so we should not do anything. But actually, our three countries, we want to do more things in those respective fields. So why not come up with an European initiative and prove to the rest of Europe more things can happen by building faster mobility, better recognition of studies, interconnect our research institutes, making sure also our companies develop common projects financed with EU funds in the field of innovation, really do more. Move a little bit faster. Show that we can do more. And of course, focus those kind of initiatives on those kind of skills that we need for the future. Of course, this is not easy. Of course, it requires the support of the ministers. It requires the support of the Commission. I'm confident that from the Parliament, European Parliament side, you will have our support. But I think, of course, we also need to focus more on people. And in today's world, where everyone is, looking at the next crisis, we look at the world around us. I think we should also focus on how to make sure our world will be a better place to live in for future generations. And in order to do that, we certainly need to invest more in skills, education, and lifelong learning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Victor. Now, Lucas, tell us the news. How European competitiveness will grow with the omnibus.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, first of all, distinguished Mr. Stanishev. I'm happy to be here. It's a plenary week of the European Parliament starting today, so I even double appreciate my colleague, our Vice President Victor Negrescu, and also Tonino Pizzola from Croatia being here today, because it's crucial to have this debate, also this panel discussion, and I've learned it's the fifth time already you are addressing this in Bulgaria, and Bulgaria becomes a front runner, I would say, in these issues of clean transition, as the new language is called in the European Commission, and I will go deeper into that in a second. While I find it a relief that I can speak from my seat, because I would have the longest way to the speaking spot, and when everybody else was going to the speaking spot, I already was thinking, how far will it take for me to go there, but I can remain seated, and this is a true relief, so thank you for that. Actually, and that's the most important point I want to address you with a very clear message, and it's hard to convey sometimes because we have elected the same Commission's president as last mandate, but with a very different program. We have a shift of paradigms on European level. We have a shift of paradigms by the European Commission due to the elections last year. As our moderator has pointed out, the European Parliament is the elected body of the European Union, and people voted for different majorities, and this is why we have now a Commission focusing on competitiveness, and this is crucial because we have a problem. I just want to address you with three figures. The one is, in the last years since the pandemic, Europe had a GDP growth of 0.5% on average. The US had 7 times as much, and China had 12 times as much. So we clearly have a huge problem. We have to seek for competitiveness. I highly appreciated Mr. Letta's speech today, also his speech yesterday night in a different setting, and I embrace the Letta report very much. This is also why I highly appreciate that you have and had Enrico Letta with your conference here, because we need this fifth freedom of knowledge, and we have heard a lot about education and skills today, and I can only underline it very much, even due to the demographic winter. Maybe the biggest challenge we have cross sectors, interdisciplinary, so to speak. The demographic winter Europe is in affects everything. Also the social welfare systems, the care for the elderly, but of course the economy, our competitiveness. And also that Mr. Letta outlined the need for Europe to strengthen itself. When we talk about the transatlantic relation, when we talk about the influence of China, we should not be too reluctant to first think about how we strengthen ourselves in this competition, in this geopolitical global competition. And this is why I highly appreciate the omnibus package our moderator has referred to. It's actually not only one omnibus package, it's several omnibus packages, and I try to emphasize this expression of omnibus very often because it might not have been a PR expert in the European Commission who has invented the expression of omnibus, because for me an omnibus is something different, but the content is good. The content is excellent. The content means, the one say simplification, the others say deregulation. Of course, we need deregulation for our competitiveness. And there are several packages. The one which we negotiate as of this week, because last week the Parliament's report draft was presented to the European Parliament. We discussed it in the European Parliament, and due to the new majorities, which also led to a new European Commission with different priorities, we will also make omnibus, which is already a good proposal by the European Commission. We will even make it better in the European Parliament to reduce the burden on the enterprises, to reduce the burden on European businesses, especially on small and middle-sized enterprises, because these burdens have led to this economic problem I have addressed in the beginning in the past. So it's a turnaround, it's a shift of paradigms, and this is a very clear message. This is the Green Transition Conference, and I highly appreciate it because it conveys time and again to the world that Europe has a specific, unique view for the future when it comes to climate change and preserving the planet, saving the planet, but we have to do it in a way that also contributes to our competitiveness, as it has been said before. And you will not find anymore, also in the speech of the Vice President of the European Commission today, you will not find anymore the expression of a Green Deal, because I dare to say that the so-called Green Deal, and I diplomatically say yet, the Green Deal has not yet been green, nor has it yet been a deal, because a deal comes along with win-win scenarios, and it was burden for the economy, and it was not green yet, because it didn't contribute to the world, humanity, mankind, dealing with climate change, tackling climate change yet at all. This is why I appreciate also the language of clean industrial transition, because we need the reindustrialization of Europe, as Mr. Letta has also pointed out, and we need a progressive approach for our competitiveness, for our youth, for skills, and here these things are connected even with demographic change. This is why I kindly invite you to follow the omnibus packages, plural. One is negotiated now, the others will be negotiated in the field of defense and many other fields in order to contribute to reducing bureaucratic burden. And we are not yet at the investment sector, where also Mr. Letta referred to, and this is my last point I will make, we need investments too. We will have the Readiness 2030 program, 800 billion investment in our security, and as everybody knows, this is not only for one sector relevant, it's relevant for all the sectors, for technology, for AI, for innovation, which we need very much in Europe. So after cutting red tape, reducing bureaucracy, we have to go to the area of investments, and then I'm optimistic for Europe's future, and I'm in particular optimistic due to the very new approach and the new leadership and the new priorities by the European Commission, which will try to make even better in the European Parliament in this mandate and in the years ahead. So thank you again for having me, and thanks for the good opportunity for this panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your insight, and thank you for the optimism. And I must say, personally, no, I'm sick and tired of reading articles that Europe is doomed. Nothing is doomed. It's in our hands. We have to make Europe better. We have the potential, we have the traditions, we have the capacity. And yes, we cannot follow the idea of Donald Trump and drill, baby, drill, because there's not too much to drill. We are not the richest continent in resources. This is why the green transition process is a part of our competitive improvement, because we need to be more independent. I would like to hear much more from the people who are natural optimists, because they are, they're fighting every day with so many obstacles, red tape, conditions, other partners. These are the people from real business. And I'm very happy to welcome here Mr. Christoph Demil and Mr. Dimitar Tsorkov. On the one side, we have the financial sector, UBB. We have one of the big producers of copper in Bulgaria. Can you give us optimism? How can the business change the environment for better and make Europe more competitive? And also, what kind of obstacles do you meet? Please, you have the floor, Christoph.
Well, first of all, indeed, thank you very much, first of all, for inviting business also on this forum. And I think there is indeed room for optimism. At least we are optimistic, despite that the fact that we recognize the challenges that have been put here ahead, and for which we are as an industry, as a financial industry, very happy of the initiatives both at local level and at European level, which we see in terms of education and investment in education. But for us as an industry, we are working with people, with young people on a daily basis. We are working with staff members who are with us for 10, 15, 20 years, and we're working with newcomers. And it's part of our DNA to work with people. And I think what is for us as a business important, independent of where we are today in terms of legislation, investments, and we can only hope that they will improve. But for us, the important thing is that we give people purpose. When people come to our business, our goal is to give people purpose, a meaning of what they are ahead of and what they could mean for their job, for their life, for the company, for the customers they're working for. So we are focusing on giving people purpose. And we try to do that through several areas. One, and it's absolutely true, we try to, from the very beginning, in whatever state of education or skills that people come to us, we try to invest in people in a number of key areas today. One, the first thing we try to invest in people and make knowledge about is the winners of this labor market will be the people who are able to unlearn and relearn. We are investing on flexibility and making it clear from the very start that people will not do 20 years the same job, not even within the same company. So we're trying to create a mindset of flexibility from the very beginning, which also is a positive element. It does not, for certain jobs, it does not really matter that much what is your initial orientation. We as companies are there to guide people through a transition, through educating them and focusing on flexibility. The second area is the area of innovation. Also there, we try to walk on two paths. First of all, we try to educate our staff members ourselves. I think this is part of our role in society. That is to educate people in order to become meaningful and to have a meaningful contribution. And when you look at innovation, there is two things. One, it is educating and training our people, but I want to come back to that meaning. We also try to give our staff members in the financial industry a meaningful input. What I mean with that is, it's not about technology because of the technology. It is technology in a way that it makes people's lives better and easier. That is again reflecting innovation towards purpose. A third element, so flexibility, innovation, and how do you give that meaning? And a third element, of course, in today's environment, in our industry, is sustainability. We are both educating our own staff in sustainability, have built up our own ESG academy, our sustainability academy, and are giving lectures to students and companies in order to bring them further in terms of sustainability. So I think there is a lot of hope, there is a lot of positive spirit in business to work with people, to give people a meaning. And that's why I believe we as a business, we have three roles in this debate. I think first of all, and that's why we are happy to be here, we should be part of forming legislation and regulation. It is our duty to give input so that our voice is heard, one. Two, I think it is our role as well here in Bulgaria to make sure that there is a balance between European initiatives but also local specificities, so that also local specificities are taken into account when initiatives are taken. And my third element, coming back as how I started, despite that or thanks to that, we should not wait. We should work with regulation as it is today and make the best out of that towards the young and existing labor force that we have in Bulgaria.
Thank you very much for your input. It's very impressive what you mentioned. And by the way, I read some statistics. 90% of training and retraining of the labor force is organized and paid by the business community. And I know that also the business is requesting more support from the state in this process. And it is needed. Господин Цуцорков, вие сте последен, но не последен.
Mr. Tsorkov, you're last, but not in terms of the importance of your input. So tell us more about your situation in your enterprise. I would speak in Bulgaria. It is my pleasure to be here, Ms. Kiselova, members of the European Commission, the European Parliament, ministers. So I would like to share the views of the business. Despite of the difficulties, we stay positive, and I'll tell you why briefly, because we are running out of time. It is very important that you believe and stay positive in times like today. It's important to continue investing and believing that the future of the EU and Bulgaria is a positive one. As a mining enterprise and as an industry, we have our own reasons for that. We believe in all this because our experience shows that starting on a particular path with a business plan and a strategy. We started 20 or 30 years ago with a lot of confidence. We wanted to be leaders. We wanted people to trust us and follow us. And this is possible first by setting up a plan with integrity, with doing what you say, by being consistent in what you do. 10 or 15 years ago, the people we hired looked at us as people who are being over-optimistic. We were saying that we'll reinvest our profit in Bulgaria, in corporate social responsibility, in education, in culture. Nobody believed us at the beginning, but by being consistent, by being goal-oriented, things began to happen the way we promised they will happen. And we are not the only company. There are others like us following our example. This year we celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Global Pact for Bulgaria. And I see that more and more companies adhere to the Global Pact principles. While we waited for the government and the European Commission to help us, we actually helped ourselves. And the results are obvious. Bulgaria in particular, because we In Bulgaria, we often complain that we are not at the core of Europe, that we are on the periphery, that we are slow, that there is a lot of red tape here. But objectively speaking, in terms of GDP, in terms of the prospects before the country, it doesn't really matter who has made those achievements possible. What is important is that together, everybody, all parties in Parliament, all of us as European citizens, we have to work with what we have. It's not easy, and there'll be hard times ahead, but our experience as a company shows that everything's possible. What we did together with my father, Professor Totorkov, shows that everything is indeed possible. 25 years ago, the price of copper was really low. We were facing bankruptcy. There was no hope. There was no one to save us. But we took out loans. We invested in modernizing the facilities, looking ahead. And this is an example which illustrates the fact that a single company, although we work together with partners, but a single company can indeed transform the sector and be an example to everybody else and be listened to. And we are listened to by the government, and we are a respected partner. We have proved that we can transform our country and whole regions. We can change Europe for the better. And today's forum is an excellent proof of that. I can carry on giving you positive examples, but I'll stop here. Thank you. Thank you.
For sure, I would like to speak with each one of you for much longer, but it doesn't depend on me. And because we wanted at the beginning of the forum to show its institutional might, its international presence, and to have meaningful people. It was not easy for all of you. I thank you very much, especially Mrs. Manzato, the members of the European Parliament, who have to be in Strasbourg now, plenary session, voting, they're counting the numbers. But also let's thank our audience, which was very patient and showed a great stamina. You are released, but before that, remain for the family photo on the stage, please. And this is a request to all the moderators from now on.